Basic Brewing Radio is sponsored in part by the American Homebrewers Association. Give or receive an American Homebrewers Association membership by December 31st and select a free brewing book of your choice. This holiday season, purchase a one-year membership and choose from 60 different beer and brewing books to meet your goals. Visit homebrewersassociation.org/basicbrewing for offer details. Hurry, this offer ends December 31st. homebrewersassociation.org/basicbrewing. Welcome to Basic Brewing Radio for Thursday, December 21st, 2023. I'm James Spencer. Here at Basic Brewing Radio, we're all about home brewing. This week, Homebrewer Scott Housel shares 5 variations of Saison created from one batch of beer with Adam Ross of Twin Span Brewing and me. Using tinctures and infusions of other beers, Scott was able to make markedly different beers from the single base. If you want to support us financially, check out patreon.com/basicbrewing, and many thanks to everybody who's helping out in that way. If you go to patreon.com/basicbrewing, you can see a long list of stuff that you can access if you sign up as a supporter. I'm almost done editing the special bonus video that I'm planning to release to financial supporters by the end of the year. That is, if all goes well. That's the DVD commentary that Steve Wilkes and I recorded as we watched our original Introduction to Extract Homebrewing DVD. We shot that way back in 2004. So you get to see present-day us on one side of the screen and 2 decades ago us on the other. There are some things on the DVD that that haven't aged well, including us, but most of the advice and techniques that we used are still sound, still works. It's kind of a great way to look at how far homebrewing has advanced over the past 20 years. Now, I'll eventually, like maybe in July on our anniversary of the podcast, maybe I will release this to the general public, but financial supporters will get to see that way in advance, along with participants in the annual disaster show. They'll get a link to that video as well. I usually take the week of Christmas off, but I'm planning to post the disaster show next week because of where the holiday falls this year. I hope that y'all will enjoy that. Lots of great stories this year, so many thanks to everybody who sent those in. My small batch of Big Mead is pretty much done fermenting, I think. That's the 1-gallon Veneer homebrew ingredient kit that I got from Groenfeld.com. I'm planning to rack that into secondary and add the chunk of oak that came with the kit this weekend. I'm also hoping to brew the oat malt stout that Chris Colby, Peter Simons, and I formulated in the previous episode. I have the ingredients. Now I just have to find the time to brew it. This may be a Christmas Eve brew. Really looking forward to tasting how that comes out. You know, the kids don't get up at the crack of dawn anymore on Christmas, or, so maybe a Christmas Day brew. I don't know. I got the ingredients for that beer from our friends and sponsors, Desiree and Dave of HighGravityBrew.com. And there's great news for listeners of this show. Desiree has created a new discount code that will give you 10% off beer brewing ingredients. So that's anything under the beer ingredients menu on HighGravityBrew.com. It can be used every time you order. There's not a limit on the number of times it can be used. That's a big deal. The new code is BB10 or BB10. You can put the code in yourself at checkout, or you can go to basicbrewing.com and click on the High Gravity ad on the right-hand side, and the code will be entered for you automatically at checkout. Again, you can save 10% off beer ingredients, including the Build Your Own Beer page, beer ingredient kits, grain, hops, yeast, adjuncts, everything under the beer ingredients menu on HighGravityBrew.com. Just remember the code BB10 or BB10. The code can't be combined with any other offers. Take advantage of this great deal for yourself, and at the same time send Desiree and Dave some love for supporting this podcast and basic brewing in general. Since the beginning, they were one of the first homebrew shops to buy and sell the DVD. That's at family-owned and operated HighGravityBrew.com. That's HighGravityBrew.com. BB10. Is that the name of that robot? No, that's BB8. It's two better than BB8. Except there's no dash in BB10. It's just BB10. Okay, every year for the past few years, Scott Housel sends us delicious beers to sample during the Disaster Show. Well, this year Scott outdid himself and sent 8 beers, including 5 that are variations from a single Saison. I wanted to explore those Saisons more closely than just, sipping them between letters. So I asked Scott to come on the show, and I enlisted Adam Ross of Twin Span Brewing to help us taste. Scott Housel, welcome back to Basic Brewing Radio.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
We have a special guest that's not Steve Wilkes. Because of the holidays and traveling and all that stuff, he's not able to join us. But we have a substitute, Steve Wilkes. We have Adam Ross from Twin Span Brewing up in Bettendorf, Iowa?
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, happy to be back. I got some really big shoes to fill in if I'm going to be Steve, and I'm not going to make nearly as old a cultural references either, so I apologize in advance.
You know what they say about big shoes? Big feet. So it's my attempt to be Steve.
Big socks.
So, Scott, you're the one who's brought us here together. So what are we doing? We got five bottles of beer on the wall in front of us. What kind of a thing are we doing?
So for my 5th Disaster Show to send you beers, I decided I would do something special, kind of aim it towards you guys. So I did a rye Saison and several variations of it.
And the photos, describe what the photos are on the. I'll take a picture for the Insta, but describe what the labels are.
So it's Statler and Waldorf from the Muppet Show. The guys up in the balcony, always making jokes, and just kind of thought of you and Steve as like the nicer version of them, less sarcastic.
That's my Statler and Waldorf impression. And you got photographs. But it's not Statler and Waldorf. What is it?
Well, I called it Spensler and Wilksdorf.
I'm at once. There's positives and negatives to being compared to old Muppets. But I'll take it as being flattered. I'm flattered. Color me flattered.
I hope so. It was meant to be flattering.
I can see the connection there now that I'm looking at the labels. I get it.
Yeah. Go to Instagram /Basic Brewing or however that works, and the 200 people that follow me on Threads, maybe I'll put it on there too. But I appreciate it. I appreciate the beers. I appreciate the funny. It was a surprise bringing those out of the box, and it's quite enjoyable. I appreciate that.
Well, I'm glad.
So maybe we should just start with sampling. Which one should we start with while you talk about the recipe?
Let's go with the one that has the rye Saison sticker on the top. It's one of the Spensler and Wilksdorfs.
Okay. Got it.
And then pour those two that are the same. Pour carefully because one's bottle conditioned, so you might have something at the bottom.
I will. I've got a sink here beside me, so I'll be. Oh, you mean that you don't want the cookie?
Yes.
But that's what Steve would do. He would pour. There would be lots of foam, and there would be chunks in the bottom.
But it's a rye Saison. It's about 7.5%.
This is delicious.
Tell us talk about the recipe.
Okay, so I really made 7 gallons, but I scaled it down to 5 to tell you. So it's 7 pounds of Pilsen malt, which is about 3.2 kilograms, 2 pounds of rye malt, which is about 0.9 kilograms. I did a pound of table sugar. For my water, I did 4 ounces of acidulated malt, and I did 4 ounces of rice hulls because it was the first time I was using rye malt. So I wanted to make sure that came out good. And then I did a 45-minute boil that was, the mash I did at 149, 147, 145, which is 60.
Goodness.
So I really wanted it dry, and it worked because it ended at 0 Plato or 1 degree specific gravity. So it dried out completely. 45-minute boil with Mandarina Bavaria at 45 minutes, a half ounce, 14 grams. 15 minutes from the end, another half ounce, 14 grams, and then another ounce, 28 grams at 5 minutes from the end of the boil.
It is really nice. I mentioned this on the show a few weeks back. This beer, that it reminds that what's tickled my taste buds in the very beginning was a memory of Duvel, and I'm assuming that's how you pronounce it. The strong Belgian golden ale.
Mm-hmm.
It's really good. I probably could have guessed that it has sugar in it because it is really dry, but there's no like stressed fermentation, because of the sugar or anything. It's not hot. It's not because it's a Saison. I expected it to be a little more funky, but maybe that's just my impressions. It does, there is a little, sort of Belgian funk, so to speak, but largely it's just really super delicious and drinkable, dangerously drinkable.
What yeast did you use, Scott? Because I'm not getting a lot of those phenolics, those super Belgian-y. This is just this is really well balanced in the ester and profile and the phenolics.
It's the Lallemand Belle Saison.
Wow. Okay.
And what
temperature?
Yeah, exactly.
I started it at 70 and then just left it at room temperature, and it quickly. How quick was that? The next day, it was up to about 75, about 24 Celsius, and then it went up a little bit more. To about 78, 25 Celsius during fermentation, and then it slowly dropped again, of course.
Oh. Well,
so fairly restrained, not a wild fermentation, not crazy hot. It was probably just chugging along nicely, not really tearing things up.
And you're down in Florida, so do you have any way to control the temperature?
I didn't use any. I had it in my laundry room, and the temperature was actually from the tilt hydrometer, which was inside in the liquid, so it wasn't ambient temperature. And my house is usually 73 to 75, so.
How many laundry loads did you do during this fermentation?
That was flakes.
Stick it up on the dryer during the spin and get that yeast really roasted up.
Yeah.
When I first started brewing, we had a little bitty laundry room with a closet in there, and I had some bottle bombs because it got pretty hot in there in the summertime. I didn't ferment in there, but now this is the base. So remind me, is this the bottle conditioned one?
Well, I'm not going to tell you yet till you try the next one.
Oh, okay. All right.
I think mine's called now.
So this is the S.
Yes. Are we ready for that now?
Sure.
Okay.
You just threw down a gun. Oh, it's not as.
Can I make a guess already just from opening it?
Sure.
I think the S is the bottle conditioned. At least the only reason I say that is because it hissed quite a bit more than. Well, that's not true. This might be warmer, so that I should throw that out. That this bottle I didn't cool right away, so it might be a little bit warmer. That might be why it hissed more.
Yeah, mine are all at the same temperature. In the second bottle, I thought I got less of a hiss than the first one.
It's a little bit. I haven't tasted it yet. It's a little bit more clear in my glass.
And one is a keg fill, one is bottle conditioned.
Correct. Yeah, I used 5 of the carb tabs, not the lozenge style.
The little aspirins.
Yes.
Don't put aspirin in your beer, but the little aspirin-shaped and sized sugar pills. Sugar pills. There's a beer name for you. I think this is the Kegville. It seems to be a little less carbonated, a little less or a little flatter.
I have to agree.
Less bright.
Mine is significantly more clear in the second sample than the first one. So I must have.
No?
My guess is I shook up bottle conditioned in that first sample.
Yeah, my second one is a little more clear, but I was fairly careful to pour in the first one. I think the first one is bottle conditioned. I think the second one is keg conditioned. They're both good.
That's my vote too.
Yeah, well, you got it right.
That was easy.
They drink way too easy for 7.5% alcohol too. You're playing a dangerous game, sir.
Yeah, I got to cook supper after this. I got to use a pressure cooker.
Is that heavy machinery? That's the stuff you're not supposed to be using.
But I've already chopped up the vegetables. I did that beforehand, so we should be all right. The first one, I like. That's
smart.
Yeah, I like the first one better. It is sharper. The second one is good, but it's a little, to use a wine term, it's a little more flabby, maybe, because it's not as sharp. If I just had it by itself, I would have been perfectly happy, and I still am happy with it. But the first one is nice and bright, and there's more of a bitterness. It kind of cuts through the beer, and it just seems to be more enjoyable to me.
Yeah, I get a little more depth of flavor in the first one in the bottle conditioned. But they're similar enough. I feel like if I had them back to back, and you didn't tell me that they were different, I wouldn't know that there was any difference. I think they're coming out close enough. But that first one just has this extra top note on top of everything else.
Yeah, it's a little more funky to me.
The first one, yeah, I'd have to agree with that too.
And I'm not getting a whole lot, of course, and again, I've been saying lately, my nose doesn't work as well as it used to, but I'm not getting a lot of aroma from the beer. Are you guys?
Oh, I'm getting, yeah, you just mentioned, to use a wine term, I'm getting this like white wine character out of both of these. I'm really enjoying.
That makes me sad.
It's really making me think like, I don't know wine that well. I shouldn't pretend that I do, but it makes me think of more like a Chardonnay, a little butteriness to it almost, but not as a flaw. It's not diacetyl.
Scott, do you get something on the nose?
Like you, yeah, it's pretty light in the aroma, I like the Duvel comparison. It seems closer to a Duvel than a Saison to me.
Yeah, I like them. I like them both.
Yeah.
But to me, the second one is just kind of flatter in more ways than one. Yeah, I
really enjoy this. To use a Steve term, I'd pay $1 for that. Maybe even $2. This is Scott. These are really well done. This is some of the best Saison I've had in a long time.
Yeah, it's really good. And I should say that you sent us 8 beers, and so that was a whole lot for the disaster show. And then when I learned that these were 5 variations on one Saison, I was like, that's a show. That's a standalone show. We can't waste these on just like sipping them between reading letters. We've got to spend more time on these.
Oh, you're not making dinner tonight if you're drinking 5 of these beers, James.
It's just
just call out for it.
It's just leaking potato soup, but then I'm going to be grilling chicken too. So
you'll be leaking something after 5 of these.
Well done. I need a ding ding sound. All I got's the under pressure sound.
Always appreciate it.
Oh, well, okay. And I didn't drink a whole one of each of these, so challenge so far accepted and conquered. Now that our egos are enraged and our confidence is bolstered, let's move on.
All right. So let's go to the rye saison with a touch of flambic.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's the one with the picture of you and Steve on it instead of the Muppets.
In the Orval bottle.
In the Orval bottle, yeah. Because this one's also bottle conditioned. And then with the mixed culture I had in there, I wanted a little insurance against overcarbonation, and if that was even a possibility. Because this is bottle conditioned as well.
So how did you do that? Did you split the finished beer before packaging and then treat them all differently, or how did you do all this?
So I started by when the fermentation was finished, I bottled the ones to bottle condition first, and added the carb tabs, and then put the keg into, and then also for this flambic, I did 20 milliliters of my pseudo Solera project.
Mm.
So I wanted to have a little bit of the funk, because the farmhouse, the new saisons all seem to be very funky to me a lot of times, and I wanted to try that out. So then I put the carb tabs in there too, and then I kegged the rest, and then I bottled off for the keg fill, and then for the rosemary and Petite Syrah ones to come up. They were all from the keg.
The head is more persistent on this one than the keg fill. I think the bottle conditioned ones, the head is more persistent.
What is a flambic? Should I know what that term is?
Well, it's a Florida lambic.
Oh, clever.
See, I knew that. I'm an expert. I already knew that. No, if I knew it, I forgot it. So this is sort of a twist on a Solera, because you've added another beer to this.
I think so. I added it as a flavor, as a way to get some wild flavors in there.
Ooh.
It's got more body than the other ones you sampled.
Yeah, there's a darker flavor. It's not as, the flavor itself is not as bright. This is a little, I wouldn't call it earthy. It's just a little, if you're thinking of flavors as colors, it's a little darker.
Yeah, a little more malt, a little more. I almost wonder if that isn't the rye showing itself off a little bit more, because that would contribute body and a little earthiness.
Oh, that's good. I still think I like beer number one the best. It's still, this is really good. But as Steve says, we're cutting hairs. What do you do with it? Splitting hairs. Thank you. Oh my God, I can't cook. We're splitting hairs here.
Definitely don't cut any hairs after this.
Well, I don't have any, so the way. I'm follicularly challenged. This is good. Again, it's not, to me, super funky, which I think is good for, something that you would, that you want to drink like a whole glass of, and not just like sit and contemplate life and talk about what flavors you pull out and, which barnyard and things like that. But it does add a little depth of flavor that is different from the original beers, and kind of makes it more interesting. But still not way funky.
No, I was trying to practice a little restraint, and I wish I would have gone a little more funk, but I still like Too.
Yeah, sorry. I was just gonna say this reminds me of those lambics that get back sweetened rather than bone dry, super funky barnyard whatever lambic. This is like I can't recall who makes that over in Belgium, but they bottle it with flavored syrup.
Huh.
Is that Lindemans?
Yeah, you got it. Yep.
Ding, ding, ding. See, I did a ding sound effect. That's tasty.
Yeah, very different from the others too. This is almost an entirely different beer, I'd say.
Yeah, and that was 20 milliliters. It was a finished beer that I added to it. In 12 ounces was 20 milliliters each, so not a ton.
Oh, as it's warming up, is there oak in the flambic?
A little bit, yeah. Yeah. After I use oak sticks, I'm throwing them in there to try to see if I can grow anything on them.
I think I'm getting a little bit of that, like a little bit of earthiness, or a little bit of vanillin, or if you want to be fancy and say vanilla, but there's something. There's a little, just a tiny bit of oakness in there.
I almost got that in the very first sample, but didn't say anything because I don't think there was oak there. But right away when I opened it, it made me think of kind of a wine barrel contribution of oak, not bourbon or anything like that. Maybe that's the rye. What was the percentage of rye in this recipe, Scott?
It was about 20%.
Oh, okay. So you were pushing it. It's up there.
Yeah.
Big enough to make a contribution for sure.
But either because of the mashing techniques or because of the sugar contribution, it's not gloppy at all.
I have a rye Helles on right now, and it's 35% rye, and then Pilsner. And so it is laying bare what rye brings to a beer. And it's not what a lot of people always say, rye is spice, whatever.
Right.
More than anything, I think it contributes to viscosity in the mouthfeel, and then a little bit of earthiness, a little bit of just, dirt, but in a good way.
Yeah, it's weird because I've done 100% rye, malted rye beers, and you would think that if everybody says rye adds spice, you think they'd be super spicy, but they're not. They're pretty clean. But yet I've had IPAs that are rye, like rye IPAs, and I do taste a spice in those. So I don't know what's going on. Explain that to me, professional brewer. I don't know. Do you experience the same thing?
I've never made 100% rye beer. That would, yeah, I think I'd have to buy new brewing equipment for that. No, I don't. I mean, it's almost what I would consider matrixing. When it's two different senses or two different sense memories that are kind of conflicting with each other, and they're producing a third outcome. So, I mean, when I've had rye IPAs, I don't know if I've really gotten a spiciness out of it. Maybe the rye IPAs you've had are using spicy hops, because hops certainly bring a lot of spice to the equation.
Maybe it's the power of suggestion. I'm just reading the menu board as I'm drinking the beer.
Yeah, I count on that a lot. Let's not discount that.
The oat malt stout that I'm hoping to brew this weekend is going to be fermented with A10 Darkness from our friends and sponsors at Imperial Yeast. Eben from Imperial was kind enough to send me that, along with 2 packs of L25 Huga, which is the current seasonal yeast from Imperial. Huga is a Northern European lager yeast used in Pilsner-style beer that complements significant hop additions. But Eben from Imperial says it's very versatile. He says he knows of brewers brewing Baltic porters with it, and Steve Wilkes brewed an oak-aged IPA experiment with Huga last year. What should I brew this time? Let me know. Drop me another line. Should I brew another lager since it's getting cold outside. I could probably just use the basement to ferment without any, mechanical refrigeration. Let me know. Whatever I brew, I know those 200 billion cells in each easy-to-open packet of imperial yeast will be ready to handle the job. My stir plate is usually dusty because I don't make starters for moderate gravity 5-gallon ale batches anymore. Now, for lagers or higher gravity beers, sure, I'll go the extra effort. Ask your local homebrew store about L25 Huga from Imperial Yeast and check out all the dependable deliciousness at imperialyeast.com. That's imperialyeast.com.
I'm tempted to ask you about the beer that we formulated during the first episode of Mash Your Luck, but I don't want to do spoilers for when we get together and taste those beers. So I don't know what to do. I don't know whether to ask you if people are liking the Mash Your Luck, and don't reveal the name of the Mash Your Luck beer, but what did it come out good?
It came out without beer recipe flaws. Good is such a subjective word, James. I really like it, and I know there are people out there who really like it, and to inflate your ego more, I've had a number of people come in for that beer because they heard us talking about it on
No way.
the podcast. Yeah. Other professional brewers. It kind of was. We had an Iowa Brewers Conference, and a couple people were asking me about it, and so that kind of was a show of who out there is, listening to your program. It's not all homebrewers by any stretch.
Awesome. Where should we go next, Scott?
Let's go to the Wilksdorf, the Rye Saison Petite Syrah oak. I soaked an oak spiral in Petite Syrah for a couple of months to get ready, and then I dosed per bottle with 7 milliliters because on my taste tests that's where I wanted it to be. I tried to practice restraint again, but I hope enough came through. But
wow, that looks very different.
Petite Syrah. So, since it's Steve's beer, I had to put in an ancient reference. So 7 milliliters of basically a tincture made with wine and oak. Is that what I'm?
Yes. Yeah. I took an old hydrometer flask that the spiral fits into. So it kind of keeps I think it's 11 ounces of liquid that it will hold. And then with the oak spiral. So that would take up space too. And then I just used the liquid and added it to the beers.
Did the spiral absorb much of the liquid? Did you have to top it up?
No, I left it whole and put it in there, and then as I tasted it, I thought I got a nice wood barrel flavor out of it from tasting the wine part of it.
It has kind of a pinkish hue.
Yes, it does.
And only 7 milliliters per bottle. I admire your restraint.
Right, and it's the least clear of the beers that I've poured so far. That could be my fault.
Oh my goodness! Wow. Now I actually smell this one, but the taste, the flavor is radically different.
Oh, definitely.
Oh yeah, it's another totally different beer.
Oh my goodness, we have a new favorite.
Good.
Wow, it's super spicy. I guess the oak brought out the spice of that yeast. That's like a magnitude spicier than the original beer, which I liked the best initially. Wow, that is complex, and I don't know that I could have told you that there was wine in it. I don't even know if I could have told you that there was oak in it. But there's a ton of spice in here.
I'm getting a fresh oak off of this. Like it's definitely maybe again power of suggestion, and then you do have a little graphic of grapes on the bottle, but it's making me think of a wine almost more than beer.
Oh, that is good. What was the toast and source of the oak? Do you remember?
Ooh, I am pretty sure that it would be medium American.
Okay. Not that I would know any difference, but for the reference of listeners who play with these kinds of things.
I'm a medium American, James. Bordering on large. American.
And you're toasted right now, so
There you go. Tastes like me.
Oh.
Yeah, I regretted saying that as soon as I said it.
Don't put that on the bottle, Scott. Tastes like me. Adam Ross.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm pushing a little beyond medium American myself. So.
Scott, when you open your own brewery, you can use that quote from me to help sell your beer.
Oh, thanks. I really liked your. You told me that my intense packaging strategy made sure that the beer survived the trip, and I thought that's a great name for something. Intense packaging strategy.
Oh my God, it took me I don't know, 20, 30 minutes long. It felt longer than it should have to get the 8 beers out of the box.
Yeah,
I mean, that could have been blown up. That could have been at that could have been had a missile fired at it, and still the beers would have came out.
There should have been an unboxing video to go with that. Yeah,
swearing going on.
I didn't even bother to open Steve's box, and Scott included a separate box for me and Steve. So I just handed Steve the taped up box and said, "Here you go."
It's your problem now.
But the good thing about it is I've got packaging, to put future bottles in to send to other people. So there you go.
Yeah, you're getting some of it back, Scott, when I send you beers. So you're gonna get some of that packing material back in your house.
Good. I'm a chronic recycler.
That's good to be.
That is.
I'm drinking out of little plastic Dollar General cups that I'm sure that I've washed. So I don't know. It's whether it's environmentally responsible or hoarding. I'm not sure which, but this beer is again my favorite. I don't know whether I'm getting notes of fruit or floral notes or something, but there's something, sort of more esoteric on top of, everything else that we've been talking about. The spice, the little bit of oakiness, the blended with the original beer. There's just, it's some, I'd pay $1 for this. This is like a mature, commercial level, and again, there's lots of beers that are sold commercially that aren't worth $1, but anyway, this is not like this is pretty good homebrew. This is like real good. It's good stuff, Scott.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, this is reminds me. It's I don't know. I keep circling around wine analogies, probably because of there's some wine influence here. This is like rosé paired with saison, sort of, and I know you're using the Syrah oak there. I want to say Goose Island did something similar years ago when they first launched their funky sour sisters line of beers. This would fit in real nicely with that lineup.
Didn't Dogfish Head do a blend of beer and wine many, many years ago?
In their ancient ales, I think they had something in their ancient ales series that was maybe even with the Syrah.
It seems like it was this is, brain cells that have been dormant for a while, but it seems to me that it was a little more heavy. It was more heavy-handed than this. This has restraint and, is not meant. There's no novelty. Not saying that Dogfish Head was a novelty beer, but there's no novelty aspect of this. It's not a stunt beer. It's well flavored and well done.
Yeah, I would expect this one to be like corked and caged in a fancy bottle, and you'd pay more than $1 for this one.
But the spice lingered or lingers. It's not, And again, I haven't had a full bottle yet of any of these, so. I'm still Instant Pot rated. We've only got one left.
Well, let's go.
Sad to say. And now
this is the Spencler. So we're doing yours last.
Yay!
So rosemary, something I've tried to use quite a few times. I always feel like I put a little too much. I'm hoping there was enough this time and not too much.
I love rosemary. We usually have it in the garden. We had a giant rosemary shrub that we had for like 5 years, and then the temperature got to like 20 below zero Fahrenheit here one year, and it killed it. And then, of course, every time you mention rosemary, Steve has to say, "Oh, baby," or some reference to Rosemary's Baby. We haven't had any ginger references on mic, so I haven't had to say anything about Mary Ann.
You're talking to two gingers, so
yeah,
we've got those bases covered.
Yeah, and this is from my rosemary bush. And again, I made a tincture with vodka, and then that was 7 milliliters as well. Oh. So it's kind of nice to remember as I bottled that it was 7 milliliters of one and 7 milliliters of the rosemary as well.
I'm getting rosemary on the nose. I don't know if you hadn't told me what it was. I don't know that I would have known what it was. But there is a fresh, like an herbal, in a good way, fresh nose on it.
Yeah, there's definitely a rosemary there, but it's not too much to the point. I feel like, and I've done it personally, use too much rosemary, you kind of push off into best case scenario, you get the savory dish character that you don't really expect in a beer. Worst case, you kind of push over into like cleaning chemicals or potpourri dish. We're not there with this by any means.
Or grandma's bathroom.
My grandma's bathroom did not smell like rosemary.
That's more lavender. In lavender, you can get grandma's bathroom pretty quick. I'm still smelling. It smells good.
Perfect for this time of year. I like to, and I didn't this year, but I like to make rosemary beers around Christmas time because I feel, in my mind at least, it makes me think of the holidays for whatever reason. Kind of makes me think of a Christmas tree, kind of that vibe.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's rosemary on the flavor. Yeah. That's a big mouthful of rosemary right there. Wow.
I don't think it's too much though. I mean, that is it's intense, but it's not overpowering. It's still a beer. It's not air freshener or thing you would keep in your spice cabinet to add to a dish.
No, a marinade.
Right. It's not a marinade. No.
No, I don't think you want any more. But yeah, it's just on the threshold. It's like, wow, that's really good. That's really powerful. I think if you had gone 1 or 2 milliliters more, it would have been too much, because this is like the optimum. I mean, if you want a rosemary beer that is recognizably rosemary without being offensive, I think that this is the proper amount, because that flavor is, and I'm surprised, and thank goodness that the Saison yeast wasn't more expressive in the funkiness, because I think that might have conflicted with the rosemary. I could be wrong, but at this level, I think they pair well. It's like bright and brightly herbal, without being too savory. But I don't know if it's my new favorite, but it's second place, I think. I'd like this one quite a bit.
Yeah, funny you mentioned that Saison character would conflict with it. I feel like this one isn't a Saison anymore. There's enough rosemary here that if I were to sell it, I don't know what I would call it. I don't think I'd put Saison on the board, though, for customers, which is by no means a slight against it. It's a really good beer. It's just I don't know what I'd call this. I think it's left Saison in the rear view mirror there.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. From a marketing perspective, Because I think that if you put saison on a beer, the beer geeks are going to come in expecting a certain thing, and if they tasted this, they'd be like, 1 star.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Those first two beers, though, I 100% would call it a saison, and I'm in the camp of if I had to pick favorites, it's either the first or second one for me. The same beer, one bottle conditioned, one keg conditioned. That's just such a 7.5% alcohol. I don't know if I want to call it a daily drinker, but it's in that camp of like that is a beer I would regularly keep in my fridge and just be really good after dinner.
Thanks. That's what I was thinking when I had one the other day from the keg. I thought I wouldn't change anything. I always want to tinker with a recipe. I never do the same thing twice, but this is one that I was ready to just say that one's great as is.
It would be fun to swap out the finishing hop in that beer, though. If I wouldn't change anything else in the recipe, and I'm not saying it needs improvement, but just it would be fun to keep doing that recipe with different hops and just really see how they interact with that saison fermentation character.
Yeah, I agree. From a perspective of a quote unquote daily drinker, I could have beer number one, one of beer number one every day and be happy. I don't know that I would want a pint of, either the Petite Syrah or the Rosemary beer. I wouldn't want to have one of those every day, even though I like them very much. And, in this tasting, I like them better than the first one. If it's something, that I'm going to have every day, I would like to have number one better every day. Just because it's, I think the Rosemary and the Petite Syrah would kind of wear on me. It's like once a month. It's like, oh yeah, this is great. But like every day, probably not.
I'm hoping the caps hold carbonation because I think my wife is really going to enjoy all of these. She's more of a wine drinker, and so I think all these beers would be. So we get a lot of customers in that say they don't necessarily like beers or they don't like IPAs, but they like this beer that I make. I hear that a lot. I think that's coming from a lot of people who are used to, wine and wine flavors, and I kind of tend to lean that way with some. They would eat this stuff up. The wine drinkers out there, I think this would be their beers. They would love all of these.
Mm-hmm.
The Rosemary one, I don't know. That's in its own camp, but everything else. Yeah, definitely for the wine crowd.
We've been talking for 45 minutes, so which means we can't talk for some more. Just, I can't be held responsible for anything that
just edit out anything offensive or incriminating.
So anything after this. Well, Scott, I'm always grateful for you providing the Disaster Show beers, and you've definitely gone above and beyond this time, and I really look forward to to tasting the other three beers during the Disaster Show with Steve, and and I'm sure that Steve will be incredibly impressed with the beers that we've tasted today. There's a period. There's a period there at the end of that sentence.
Scott, anytime you want to send me a beer and want feedback, I will happily oblige and give you I don't know, book report, written, itemized list. I don't know, whatever you want, man. These are good beers.
Well, thanks. You're the one to open the package, so you get the hard work. I poured a little of one of the plain ones into the Rosemary.
Oh.
And at first it seems milder, and then again the Rosemary just hits you.
Now you're into Steve Wilkes territory. He's always blending at the end of the show.
Oh, you guys haven't been doing that? It's just one big I don't know what you call it, jungle juice here at the end.
You just got the spit bucket right there. It's like Sideways all over again.
No, I've been letting the Flambic really warm up. I've had that one sitting in the glass and really letting that one swirl in it every once in a while, seeing how that one develops. I think that one's the most complex of the set.
Wow. Well, guys, Adam, thanks for pinch hitting for Steve Wilkes. And I'm so happy that you were able to join us. I look forward to the set of beers from you and our first Mash Your Luck beer. And Scott, man, I can't tell you how grateful I am for your support of the years and your providing the beers. And that's a rhyme. I'm not a rapper. I'm just a guy. So.
Well, thank you. I mean, I've learned so much from your show. I started listening to it as soon as I started homebrewing in the car every day.
You homebrewed in the car every day?
Well, don't tell anybody else. But
that's where that extra funk comes from.
Yeah.
That's exhaust fumes. No, but seriously, no. I thank you very much, Scott. You're very generous, and I appreciate it. I love you, man. I've had like several, sips of delicious, fairly high alcohol beers. So, no, you guys are great. And I appreciate your continued participation in this weird, wacky experiment. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Well, thanks again to Scott and Adam. Those were delicious beers. And I was able to make my leek and potato soup without blowing up the kitchen. So that's good. You'll have to tune in next time to see what Scott sent us to taste during the annual disaster show. Hey, don't forget about the new discount code for HighGravityBrew.com. BB10, that's BB10, will get you 10% off beer ingredients. Listen to the ad at the beginning of the show again for more details. If you have brewing questions, show suggestions, or just want to say howdy, write to james@basicbrewing.com or just fill out the contact form on basicbrewing.com. And please don't forget to tell us where you're from. Check out our mobile-friendly shop at basicbrewingshop.com. Thanks to everybody supporting us through our Patreon page. Special goodies coming your way. Check that out at patreon.com/basicbrewing. So all till next time. Till then, thanks for listening, everybody. I'm James Spencer. Production help for Basic Brewing Radio and our website is provided by Kelly Dodson. Basic Brewing Radio is a production of Active Voicing. We'll talk to you next time. In the meantime, stay well and stay tuned. So long.